Hi, friends. This is Julie sitting here at the yoga studio, and today I am having a conversation on the couch with Devendra. Devendra, welcome. Glad to have you here with me today.
Thank you, Jude. Thanks for having me.
So excited. We are talking about breath and how it plays a vital role in our yoga practice, but also in our everyday life. Just what we do in every day, and then also more the contemplative and meditation. So, um, Devendra, can you tell us a little bit more about what it looks like to do breath work?
So, if I can really sum up why breath is important, is I see it this way: that breath is it's a language through which our body, mind, and spirit communicates,
Mm-hmm.
and we all are working with breath. So we all are actually doing breath work one way or the other, whether we realize it consciously or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if I may just give you one example of how breath relates to our, let's say, our mind or emotion, is underneath every single emotion, there is a breath work, there's a breathing pattern.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you're anxious, we all know that there is a breathing pattern underneath that anxiousness.
Yes.
Of course, it's at that moment haven't trained our mind and body to consciously understand what that breath is and how to reverse it. And that's exactly the practice of breath work, is to enable every single individual to be able to read and witness
Mm-hmm.
their own breathing pattern, whether it's at a time of rigorous physical activity, whether it's at a time of rest, or whether it's a time where your emotions are all over the place.
Yeah, emotional response. I love that. I love the way you put that, it is a language. And it is interesting because even in language, like even in conversation, we can, just start to speak things or whatever, and we're not contemplative about it, right? But then whenever we start to really think about our words and how we use them, so I love that. I don't know, that really connects with me the way you say that breath is a language of the mind and the body and the spirit working
Right.
together.
Right. And breathwork is essentially teaching everybody that language,
Mhm. Love it.
teaching the dialect, teaching the pace, teaching um, the highs and the lows of
Mhm.
it. And it's a profound practice because, as you know, and a lot of yoga practitioners know, there is a branch of yoga which is completely dedicated to modulation and study of breath, which we call pranayama.
Yes.
And so, like all our Western yoga today is based on one branch of yoga, one limb of yoga, which is asana.
Mhm.
Right? And that's, of course, one of the most important aspects, because unless our physical bodies are in a healthy shape,
Mhm.
you wouldn't be able to go much deeper into these much more contemplative practices, which is the stepping stone for that really is your breath.
Correct.
So breath really, if you look at the first four limbs of yoga, the yama, niyama, the asana, the pranayama,
Mhm.
if I divide that, so the other four would be the pratyahara, the dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, right? So what are those? What are those? Those are more in the mental, emotional, and spiritual realm,
Mhm.
versus the first four, which is teaching us really how to deal with our day-to-day living and how to deal with our bodies.
Right. Right.
So breath really becomes that stepping stone um, into those more contemplative practices. And one thing that I'll add is the term breath work really is, I'd say, more of a modern term.
Mhm.
Um, because, as I said, we all are doing breath work one way or the other.
Right. We're all breathing.
Exactly, right?
We'll
So,
be sitting here if
so
we
it,
weren't.
it's more, the Eastern practices understood this quite well, like pranayama being one lineage, then qigong being the other one, tai chi being the other one. So breathwork is a generic term now, which is sort of encompassing a lot of these different practices. So
Mhm.
they brought under one container of practices, and we are now, for the sake of more people adapting it,
Hmm.
we are calling it breath.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, it simplifies it in a way.
Right.
But yes, I love that because you're right. We all are doing breath work, but how can we organize it and utilize it in our everyday life to help us deal with um, periods of anxiety or even frustration. I know I remember reading years ago when I first started my yoga practice about pausing to take 10 breaths if you feel frustration or some type of heavy emotion arrive, like just pausing to just be in the breath for 10 full breaths before responding.
Yeah.
And it has a profound effect on the mind, and then your physical, how if your heart is in high palpitations,
Yeah.
like how to calm that down. So
Yeah.
yeah, I look very forward to learning more myself.
Yes.
I would say that for me personally, like in the physical practice, just learning how to create more of a rhythmic breath
Yeah.
has been my main focus of learning and practicing in the heat and everything, just keeping everything kind of rhythmic. But how can we go deeper with that and get more
Correct.
contemplative?
Correct. Right. So that really is the essence of what we will do together on April 6th at the studio here. Because to your point, like if you are in a heated room and when you start off, you're okay. But as you go into the flow, how do you pull things back to the body when your breath is really pacing forward, right? It's um, there's a sentence that we say in English. Let's catch our breath.
Yes.
Let's
Yes.
catch our breath, right? So it's almost like you have to get to your breath.
Yes.
I see the other way around. I say, pull your breath back.
Yes. I
Towards
love
you,
that.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
although I don't know how it resonates in somebody's body, but to me, it's like, hey, pull that breath back to you.
Right.
Make it deeper, make it more subtle,
Rather than running
towards it, right?
Yes, bring it
Because
to you.
yes, there's more control when you bring something to you.
Mm-hmm.
You feel a sense of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
You feel a sense of I am in charge rather than I'm being drifted away.
Right.
I have no sense of control towards it.
Yes.
So that's a science, that's an art, that's a practice.
Mm-hmm.
Because many of us, I'm amazed how even after being trained in pranayama,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't hit me what a diaphragmatic breathing is unless I really understood it, unless it was broken down for me through my own practice and through teachers, which you're talking about that rhythmic breathing. Right? So it doesn't have to be partition, although when we learn it, that's what we do. We train students to partition the breath, understand different parts of the breath, and then bring them together into harmony to see how you can do the diaphragmatic breathing. But diaphragmatic breathing in itself is such a beautiful and effortless practice. And once you know the instructions to it, and once you practice it enough, it automatically happens to you.
Yeah.
Like once you enter into the practice, once you're on a mat on a child's floor, it just kicks in.
Yes.
And it stays with you throughout the practice. And of course, it will take time for you to be able to sustain that breath through a 60-minute hot yoga class.
Yeah.
But once you get it, you are flowing.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a flow state of mind. And that's a beautiful place for your practice to arrive at.
It really is.
That's really the aim of the practice, to be in a flow state, in a dance state. And dancers do this very well because they train their body, breath, and mind so elegantly that they find that flow state. And that's what the purpose of our, at least the vinyasa flow is for you to get into that flow state with your breath and your body.
Right.
And your mind, right? Mind,
right.
To bring it back to the practice.
I love it. I mean, I've often told practitioners that and the respiratory system is such an amazing thing because yes, it has the capability to do its own thing. We don't have to focus on it, right? We're
we're going to breathe up aside and let it do its thing. That's right.
Right. Yeah. But then to actually, practice and like I said, control the diaphragmatic breathing and just really learn to pace that out. It can be such a beautiful thing, especially whenever you do start to feel overwhelmed. When we talk about, practice in a heated room, we start to feel overwhelmed rather than chasing the breath,
Right.
drawing it to us and keeping us in that comfortable space. So yeah, I look very forward to learning more about it because, there's always places to go. There's always things to learn. And I feel like, in my own personal practice, yes, I have those times where I can be very comfortable and keep that nice rhythm, but to learn a little bit deeper of what that looks like to get contemplative with it. And work, more into meditation rather than the physical and putting in the effort. But what happens when we stop the effort of the physical practice, but instead just sit and continue that breath work when we're just in a relaxed state of meditation.
Right.
So yeah. So one of the things, and Devendra just kind of briefly mentioned this, the beauty of this conversation is that we're going to be having a workshop. So we're going to have April 6th, Sunday, a 9 a.m. workshop with Devendra. It's about 2 hours long, right? 2 hours long, and we're going to be studying, the physical practice of movement and breath together. And then in the second half of it, we'll be working more just the contemplative breath in meditation.
Correct. Yep.
Wonderful.
Looking forward to seeing everybody.
Yes, please come check us out. So much that Devendra could share with us right now, but of course, unless we're actually in the practice and hearing and using the tools that he will help us to figure out in our bodies and our minds and bringing all that language together. So
so I just add something there. So expect on that day to move a little bit. Although we won't have a heated practice that day, we'll keep the temperatures to the normal temperature. So expect to move a little bit, and then also expect to have some, as you mentioned, more contemplation towards the second half of the practice. So it's a mixture of both movement as well as stillness.
Sounds wonderful. I look forward to it.
All right.
Yep. All right. Come check us out. April 6th, 9 a.m. Sign up now and it'll be available on our website. All right. Hope to see you then. Namaste.